So today we're taking a look at the 2023 Acer Nitro 5, and this is the fastest RTX 4050 that I've tested this year so far. And look, the price point is actually not bad. Like $999 is a pretty good deal for a more budget. I put budget in quotes because things are just expensive in general, but this is a newer product and $999 is pretty much exactly where this style of gaming laptop should be. Now, before I jump into this laptop, I do want to give a quick shout out to Best Buy for sponsoring this portion of the video because trust me, they have a lot of great top deals happening right now. For example, you can pick up an MSI 17-inch gaming laptop with 144 hertz display, usually retails for $1849, and you get an RTX 3060 GPU. If you're looking for something thin and light, the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 360 comes with a beautiful 13-inch OLED display, a 12th gen CPU. It usually retails for $1149, but you can get it for $350 off at $799. If you're on a budget, the Acer Aspire 3 with a Ryzen 5 7520U usually retails for $599, but right now it's down $200 off for $399. And finally, if you're looking for something in the middle, the Lenovo Slim Pro 7 with a 14-inch display usually retails for $1199, but right now it can be picked up for $899. Links to all of these laptops will be in the description down below. Now, the design is pretty similar to last year's model. It's a all plastic build. It's a little squishy on the top lid. It has a bit of a gaming vibe to it because you have these fancy lines going across the middle in different colors. But it's not as crazy as past Acer laptops. It's 5.95 pounds, so it's a bit on the heavier side, but the benefit is you do get a lot of ports to go with it. For example, on the left-hand side, you have your RJ45 jack. This is a 1 gigabit per second port. You have a USB-A port, SD card slot or micro SD card slot, headphone jack, and then on the other side, you have two USB-A 3.2 ports. And then on the back, you have your place where you connect your power connector, which I think is 330 watts, which is quite big for an RTX 4050. But you do get an HDMI port, two Type-C ports. This one over here supports USB 4. Now look, this is a chunky laptop, so you know it's gonna be super easy to open up with one hand. The display doesn't lie all the way flat, but it definitely goes back far enough. The keyboard deck is exactly what you'd expect on an Acer laptop. I think they use the same keyboard on the majority of their products. It's that rubberized key. It's been the same for the last 6 years. So if you've touched an Acer gaming laptop, you know exactly how this keyboard's going to feel. Now you do have 4 zones of RGB that you can customize on this specific model. You have a full-size numeric keypad, and then of course a quick access button that will load up the NitroSense software so you can change things. For example, you can put this on turbo mode, but it has to be plugged in. If you actually want to use performance or turbo mode on this laptop, not only does the laptop have to be plugged in, but it has to be charged at least 40% or it won't even show it to you. You have your little turbo button over here. These are not speakers. This is for air to come in. You have a fairly big touchpad on the bottom. It's obviously plastic. It's not the best. You're gonna wanna connect an external mouse, obviously, considering this is a gaming laptop. You're better off doing it anyways. And I think this is one of the things I appreciate the most about this laptop, because this is supposed to sit in the budget category, and usually most laptops at this price point put on terrible displays. But this one is actually really good. Like, it's 1920 by 1200, but the color accuracy is actually fantastic. It has a really good color gamut, and most importantly, it actually gets bright enough. On top of all this, it's a 16 by 10 display, so you get a little bit of extra vertical space. The downfall though is that the webcam is only 720p, whereas most other laptops on the market now are coming out with Full HD webcams. Now, there are 2 speakers on the bottom of the laptop. They get loud enough that they do sound louder than the fans, but the actual sound quality is not that great. They're just very tinny. But the specs on this guy are actually pretty good. You're getting a Ryzen 5 7640 HS CPU. You're using an RTX 4050, which goes up to 140 watts, which is a lot for an RTX 4050, and it does make a difference. You have 16 gigabytes of RAM, and then you have this big 16-inch IPS 16 by 10 display. The thing is, the CPU performance on this guy is actually really good, considering it's using a Ryzen 5 instead of a Ryzen 7 CPU. And most importantly, when you're pairing this with the GPU, and depending on the application you're using, it's probably one of the fastest RTX 4050s that I've tested this year. So one thing I forgot to mention is that the Acer Nitro 5 actually has advanced Optimus, which means if you switch back and forth between the dedicated GPU and integrated GPU, you don't have to restart the laptop, which is something you generally don't see on budget gaming laptops. But overall, like with a big thick power brick, and if you're planning on doing any sort of content creation on this laptop is more than capable of handling it. If you are gaming, this is meant to play games at 1920 by 1200. So I'm okay with the display not being QHD. And if you want to play QHD games, you can with older titles, but you're gonna have to drop down the settings if you want to play anything newer. Fan noise is loud depending on what profile you have it on. Like if you're rocking the turbo profile, you're over 62 decibels. But if you put it on performance, it goes down below 60, balanced is below 50, and of course quiet is below 40. So it depends what noise to performance ratio you want to apply to it, and it just depends on what you're doing. Heat management is fantastic on this guy. The keyboard deck never gets too hot. Even the CPU temps are exactly where they should be. It never hits 100 degrees Celsius or anything like that, and it's very respectable for a chassis this thick. Even the core clock speeds remain nice and high the entire time. You have a big chassis and you have a Ryzen 5 CPU, so it's super efficient. You're gonna get a good performance to heat ratio. Now the internals, you don't have a vapor chamber, which I don't expect one with an RTX 4050, but you do have a lot of copper going back and forth. There is liquid metal on the CPU and not the GPU. You have 2 slots for RAM, which can be upgraded to 32. Right now there's 16. You have 1 drive over here, which gets really fast read and write speeds, but you do have a second slot on this side if you want to put a second drive in this laptop. The battery size is 88 watt hours, and probably the biggest Achilles heels of this laptop is I only got 4 hours and 28 minutes before needing to charge. So I'll be honest with you, this is not the most attractive looking budget laptop on the market. In fact, it's not gonna get you any girls or guys, but here's the thing. I think they did a fantastic job for a product that costs $999. The performance is good, the display is good, the keyboard's fine, it doesn't get hot, it's exactly what it should be for this price point. But there's only one little problem. There are so many good deals on last year's laptops right now. Like you can pick up an Asus Zephyrus G14 with an RTX 3060 for $799, which makes this kind of hard to justify. Now, if those deals didn't exist, this would be a good pick. So my suggestion is see if you can get one of those deals first, and if it doesn't happen to be available, then pick this guy up, and I'll place some of my suggestions in the description down below, along with a link to this laptop as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.